I've already told you that for this class, condensing is more important than expanding. Okay, you do still have to know how to do expansion, but as far as solving the more complicated exponential and logarithmic functions, you're really going to have to know the rules for condensing. Okay, so in example 3, we're going to do some practice with that where you have multiple logarithms that you're adding or subtracting. The logarithms are the same base and you're going to be able to combine them or condense them into one single logarithm. Okay, so to do this, if you go back to the properties on page 1, we are reversing the direction in which these properties are applied. Okay, so if you look at the first property, you would start with log base a of m plus log base a of n, where you're adding two logarithms of the same base, and use the rule in this direction to combine them into one base a logarithm. Okay, addition will turn into multiplication. Okay, in property 2, you are going to start with two logarithms, log base a of m minus log base a of n. And so you're subtracting two logarithms of the same base. You can combine them into one logarithm by going in this direction. Subtraction will turn into division. Okay, property 3, we're still going to use that. Okay, but we will use it in the reverse order as well. So usually when we did the expanding, okay, if you think back to expansion, the last step in expansion was bringing any of the powers down in front as multipliers. So this time for condensing, you'll be using this property in this direction. So if there's a number being multiplied in front of a logarithm, you're going to take that number in front and move it up as the power. Okay, so that's what we will be doing here for condensing, using our same properties, but just using them in the reverse order of how we use them for expansion. Okay, so in example 3, condensing, the directions say to write each expression as a single logarithm. Okay, so the directions are pretty straightforward. You've got multiple logarithms in each of these examples. If you take a quick scan, we want to turn it into one logarithm. Keep in mind, you can only condense logarithms if they have the same base. So if you were to encounter a base 4 logarithm and a base 9 logarithm, you can't combine those guys. Okay, so make sure when you're doing this, every logarithm has the same base. Okay, in part A, we have 2 times log base 3 of x plus 3 times log base 3 of y. Okay, so we've got two logarithms that we're adding together. We want to combine them into one base 3 logarithm. Okay, it is key here. Both of the logarithms are base 3. So we can combine them. They will turn into one base 3 logarithm. Okay, when you are condensing, when you are turning everything into one logarithm, your first step is always going to be to look for numbers in front of the logarithms. Okay, so in the first logarithm here, I've got a 2 out front. Okay, and then in the second logarithm, I've got a 3 out front. So each of our logarithms is being multiplied by a number. Okay, we are going to use the third property here, okay, in reverse. So again, what we're seeing is we're seeing a number being multiplied out front of the logarithm. Okay, so we're going to go backwards, and the number that's out front, we're going to move it up as the exponent on the quantity we're taking the logarithm of. Okay, that's always where you want to start in the condensing process. Okay, so the 2 here is going to move up and become the exponent on x. The 3 is going to move up and become the exponent on the y. Okay, so this is going to become log base 3 of x squared plus log base 3 of y cubed. Okay, that is where you always want to start the condensing process. Take any number that you're multiplying in front of the logarithm, move it up as the exponent on the quantity you're taking the logarithm of. Okay, now I still have 2 logarithms, so I've got to keep going until I get to one logarithm. Both are base 3. Okay, we're going to combine them. We've got one logarithm plus another. Okay, so we are going to apply property number 1, okay, again in this direction. Okay, if you are adding two logarithms of the same base, you need to combine them into one through multiplication. Okay, so these two logarithms will combine to be 1 base 3 logarithm. Okay, and what we need to do is multiply the stuff together. So we need to multiply x squared times y cubed. Okay, so this is going to be log base 3 of x squared times y cubed. Okay, we have, combined these guys into one single logarithm. Okay, 1 base 3 logarithm. So we are done. Okay, this is the answer. Okay, in case you're wondering about parentheses, were parentheses required here? The answer is no. Okay, if you see this without parentheses, it means the same thing. Remember, you're always taking the logarithm of some quantity. So a good rule of thumb is to just use parentheses around whatever you're taking the logarithm of, just for clarification, but in this case, they are not required. Okay, I still use them just for clarification.